Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TASC Mathematics. So, today we're going to be looking at radical form versus exponent form. Now, when I talk about radical form, notice I have a root symbol, which we call our radical, and notice I have my base of x. Now, the x has a power a, and notice where my root is, right here. Now, if I have to write that in the exponent form, notice the x is our base and the a over b, which is a fraction, is our power. However, the a and the b, which is in the numerator and the denominator, represent certain things in our radical. Now, the a represents our power and the b represents our root. Now, some books call it the index, but for us, we're going to call it the root. Now, I use the letters A and B to help you out. Remember, A always comes before B. So A is always your numerator and B is always your denominator. Now, because B is the root, always remember where roots grow. Roots grow in the earth, so denominator is always the bottom. And then when you look over here by the radical sign, notice where the B is. It's like it's trying to embed itself right here into that little arm right there. Now, with the radical form versus the exponent form, we're just going to be converting back and forth. If we're given a radical, we're writing the exponent. And in the next page, you're going to see that I gave you the exponent and want you to write in the radical. So let's take a look at our examples. So here I have the fifth root of a to the 7, and I have to write this in the exponent form. So my base is a. Now I'm going to have my exponent, which is going to be a fraction. Now remember, the 7 is your power and the 5 is your root, and roots grow in the ground. So it's going to be a raised to the 7 over 5. Here I have the cube root of y squared. So I have y. My exponent is going to be a fraction. The 2 is in the numerator and the 3 is the denominator. So always remember that's your root. Here my base is x, and that would be 16 over 8. Now because your power is a fraction, always remember that fractions must be simplified to the lowest terms. Now when I look here, I notice that my denominator is smaller. And remember, when I divide, I go to heaven. So 8 goes into 16 twice. So my answer simplifies to x squared. Here I have the ninth root of b to the 6th. So that will be b, and that will be 6 over 9. Now when I try to divide, I know that 9 can't divide 6 evenly. However, I can reduce this. Both of these numbers are divisible by 3. Now if I divide by 3, that would give me b raised to the 2/3. So whenever you have a fraction, always check to see if it can be divided evenly or if it can be reduced to simplest form. Over here I have the 6th root of c. So I have my c, and my exponent is going to be a fraction. Remember, if you don't see a exponent, there's an invisible 1, so that's 1 over 6. Now this one is very special. So my base is h, and I'm going to have a fraction. Now I know that my power is a 1 because they're not going to indicate the 1. But what will be my root? Now my root is 2. If you do not see a number here, it means that your root is 2. So 1 and 2. They're not going to put the power of 1 or the root is 2. So you have to remember that if you see the square root, it's raised to the half. 1 over 2. So if 1 is your power and 2 is your root, those numbers will not be indicated anywhere in the radical. Now here I have the 7th root of 3x, and notice the 3x is all in parentheses, and that's raised to the 4th power. If they give you parentheses, please keep them. So that will be 3x, and that would be 4 over 7. Now notice where my parentheses are, and notice where my 3 is. That's your power. So that would be 5p, and my power is 3. Notice that I don't see a number here for my root, which means that my denominator is going to be 2. Remember, if you don't see a number for the root, it is 2. Okay, over here, I'm going to rewrite these in radical form. So notice all of these are in your exponent form. So I'm going to have my radical sign. F is my base. Now remember, you have 5 and 7. The 5 is your power, and the 7 is your root. So remember where roots grow, so that's where your 7 would be, and this is where your 5 will be. Your 5 is your power. I have p raised to the 2/3, so I draw my radical sign. Here's my p, here's my 2, and remember where your root go, right there. Again, I draw my radical sign. Here's my 9. The 5 is the power, so that goes here. And remember, your root is 2. Do we need to write it? The answer is no. So this is our answer. Over here, I have 5r, everything in parentheses, raised to the 3rd power. So I'm going to draw my root. Now I'm going to put 5r. Now I'm not going to use parentheses because your power is a 1. So we don't need parentheses. If your power is greater than 1, then you're going to need parentheses. And my root is going to be 3. Now always look to see who's being raised to the exponent. So notice this one here had parentheses, which means the 5 in the r was raised to the 3rd power. Here I have 7, but the x is the one that's raised to the half. So my 7 is going to be on the outside. I'm now going to draw my radical sign. There's my x. Now my power is 1. I don't need to indicate it. And my root is 2. So I don't need to indicate. This is my answer. Now remember, with negative exponents are not allowed. So I'm going to first write this in the positive form, which will be the reciprocal. 1 over, and that would be 4x raised to the positive 5 over 4. And then from here, I'm going to then write my root. So it's 1 over. Here's my radical sign. Now notice my power is 5. So I'm going to keep my parentheses with the 4x. And there's my 5. So the 4 and the x are being raised to the 5th power. And here is my root of 4. And that's your answer. So basically, in this lesson, we were just converting between radical form and exponent form, depending on what was given. I hope this lesson has been helpful. Good luck in your examination.